This game is another in a long line of movie tie-in games, and it follows the story of the much-loved Revenge of the Sith. Sorry, can't keep a straight face. It follows the story of the much-loved Revenge of the Sith. Although I do admit I enjoy this game a lot more than most movie tie-in games, it's still, just an average game at best. It religiously follows the plot of the movie, although it is way more enjoyable than the movie, in my opinion. You get to swap between Anakin and Obi-Wan, leveling both of them as you play through the chapters, which means by the end of the game they are equally as strong and have almost the same specs, but have different power variations. The linear plot of the movie mixes well with some of the extended sections of the game. They gotta extend certain things for gameplay's sake. To get a physical copy is super easy. The game, at least at the time of writing, is $7 to $13 pending shipping on eBay. I do have a physical copy, but I use an emulator for this, which allows me to bump up the graphics just a bit, and it probably looks a lot sharper than the original game looks. When we get into the graphics section, I'll put a clip of what the game originally looks like and a clip of what it looks like now with the graphics boosted up at, I think, 5 times native resolution. Anyway, we'll get to that in that section. According to the Wikipedia and the Star Wars wiki on, this game, Revenge of the Sith, it was released in 2005 and published by LucasArts, who have some amazing classic games, by the way. I would recommend going back into their library and just playing a few. On PS2, it was released, as well as Xbox, whose both versions have a secret non-canon ending. I think you can figure it out if it's not canon. It was also published by Ubisoft on the Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, and phones, and then in 2015, re-released on the PlayStation Network in Europe. So, if you've watched the movie or any Star Wars plot, you know what it's gonna be here story-wise. It pretty much is the movie in a game form, which is not a bad thing. It's just, you're not gonna be seeing anything brand new here. Alright, now my favorite section. One of my favorites usually. The graphics section. So here's a clip of the original, and here's a clip, you guys have been watching clips of it on my emulator 5 times boosted native resolution. So you can see an obvious difference. It's not that it's a bad looking game or even a bad feeling game in general. I did have an issue with the static camera, you guys know. I'm not a fan of static cameras at all, especially in a secret hunting game like this. But every area feels like it's just from the movie, which is nice. And the sets feel grand and impressive, just like they did in the movie. From the libraries to Mustafar, everything looks well done and just put together and polished really nice. Although some areas feel rushed, but I'll get into that in the gameplay section. I think we can all sit back and think of a couple of video game tie-ins that we have played, unfortunately or fortunately. The first one that comes to my mind is Thor on the PlayStation 2. I would say the Nintendo DS version isn't super bad, but the PlayStation 2 version, I think I played 30 minutes of it and I couldn't get back into it after that. So all 17 levels, yes, I said that right, levels of this game managed to be unique. And even though the last few levels are set exclusively on Mustafar, the end, it's a lava planet, there's really not much you can do. They go to a new area, quote unquote, every single time, so it always feels like fresh and new. Each area also has a degree of interactivity to it, so sometimes you may have to, pick up an explosive, quote unquote, futuristic barrel and blow up a wall to get some secrets hiding somewhere. And those secrets unlock concept art, film clips, and dual arenas and characters to use in that dual arena. And other times the interactivity is mandatory. You have to cut down a wall to get through to go to the next area. All animations for the most part are well done, and the fights feel good. I'm not gonna say awesome, but they feel good. And it's fun to really just mash buttons and see what happens, because saber combat is always fun to watch. here's the big one, the one that, you know, took me out of this game and made me be like, oh, I remember this game fondly. It's still good, but it's not as good as I was thinking when I was a kid, is the combat. Combat consists of heavy and light charged attacks as well as shield and force attacks. You can upgrade your powers as you go, and you gain your levels, from Jedi to Jedi Master. The combat is weird in some parts. It feels fast, fluid, and, ooh, look at this saber combat, and just slow and clumsy in others. I really wish it had some kind of combat flow system or combo system. And I'm going to say this every single time when I see a game like this, I really wish it had the combat system of the Arkham series or something similar. A combo series itself would make a lot of games feel better combat-wise, to me personally. A lot of work went into the system here, but it's just not great. They had the stunt coordinator from the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones movies work with them, but maybe they were just under so much time constraints that they couldn't dive into the combat as much as they wish they could have. Also, I had this thing, I don't know if it was just me, it was a weird QTE face-off kind of event. If you think of Injustice or Mortal Kombat, how they have those face-off moves and you gotta push the button. Yeah, I had something like that, but I could never figure out how to do it, so I just mashed buttons. It didn't tell me what to do, and I lost almost every single time. I feel like some parts also have a weird difficulty spike, out of nowhere, especially the section with Obi-Wan chasing General Grievous. That was way harder than the chapters before it. I died a couple times before I got through it, and the chapters before that are a breeze. The AI ranges from embarrassingly easy to mastermind, and there's really no in-between. Some enemies, no matter how much you block or move, they don't have the same animation speed as you, so they get a lot more hits in, and they knock you out of your blocks, and they stun you, and they keep hitting you and hitting you over and over again before you can even block or, do anything. Completing the main story also opens up some duels and in the duel arena where you can play as anyone from Mace Windu to Yoda to some random droids on any of the unlockable planets in the game. So voice acting and, audio here is either a mix pulled straight from the movie with cutscenes in between areas, or re-recorded lines with a different cast for the game. You can really tell some of it was either phoned in or they just didn't have time, which is weird because a lot of the voice actors work in the Star Wars universe still to this day. Some doing video games, some doing their cartoons, some doing other Star Wars related stuff. They work in the universe. It just feels like they didn't have enough time. A lot of this game feels like they didn't have enough time. All the music from the movies is officially licensed music, but it is not from the Revenge of the Sith movie, Because according to the wiki, the music for the movie wasn't even finished at the time that this game was being made, nor was the music added in the 2006 Greatest Hits release. Those were always my favorite. The red boxes, always the best. Other sounds like lightsabers, droid ships, and all that sounds spot on because it's LucasArts. They have the vault of all these sounds. So, it's a Star Wars game. It's not gonna sound horrible if it's done by the people who literally created the universe. So, let me break it down. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to know, plug your ears for a little bit. The Star Wars wiki, and I did manage to get it myself, states that the PS2 and Xbox versions have a non-canon ending where Anakin kills Obi-Wan in Mustafar, which leads to a whole host of theories and questions, but it's a nice little thing that they tossed in that they didn't have to toss in, But once you finish the game, it opens up a duel from A New Hope, and, we all know how that one turns out. The game also has a versus and co-op mode that I didn't get into, simply for the fact that at the time of writing, I did not have another person to play with, and I don't know if my emulator will let me do that, Didn't want to push it. I actually happen to enjoy this game. I'm not a super fan of the movie, but the game is a quick little game. Let me say, I enjoyed this game more than most movie tie-in games, and I know it may sound like I don't like this game, because I complained about the camera and the combat and a few other things. But just because I don't think it's horrible does not make it a fantastic game either. I spent about 5.5 hours on the game, and that includes going back and replaying some stages to get some secrets and XP. So I actually don't know how long it took me to just do one run through without going back. Ian Sullick of IGN rated the console versions 4.5 out of 10, citing camera, lack of combo system, the graphics, level design, and AI, and most specifically the implementation of the combat-based gameplay. It's an action-adventure game. What do you want? Anyway, he is not the only one. A lot of reviewers and players say the game itself is decent, but flawed. And when the flaws start to peek through, they really start to peek through and draw attention to themselves, which I can agree with. Especially as the game gets older and older and ages more, its flaws really do start to peek through, especially with the combat. Combat is always my biggest issue in a lot of these older games. I also agree that the camera, the lack of combo system, and AI are big issues in the game. But I do like how the game looks. It doesn't look horrible. Like I stated in the graphics section, the set pieces are big and grand and expansive. Mustafar looks great, the planets look great, everything it looks, maybe this is just because I'm playing on the emulator, but it looks great. Everything has a clear look, and it draws you back to the good parts of the movie. Yes, the movie did have some good parts, although I can't think of them off the top of my head. The level design is like straightforward level design. Go here to there, collect secrets along the way, fight at the end of the level the big boss that you've been chasing or hunting down for that level. It's a linear game. What more do you expect? I don't agree with the complaint about combat-based gameplay. First of all, it's a Star Wars game about combat, Star Wars combat gameplay adventure. It says it in the title, it says it on the back of the box. I know this review was written way back when we didn't have games like Star Wars Connect, so I'll take combat-based gameplay, adventure gameplay over whatever Star Wars Connect is. I think it's an average game. It's an average Star Wars game, but it's a good movie tie-in game. I do have this one in my collection, and it's super cheap to find, or, not saying you should, you could emulate it if you really wanted to, not advocating it. Honestly, it's good, quick fun, and I had a lot of fun playing this and looking back on it without my rose-tinted glasses on.